One of my favorite days every year is September 10th. It is one of the most important anniversaries in my life, when I stopped, God willing forever, being an attorney. There's nothing wrong with being an attorney. Plenty of people enjoy it. But as someone who had undiagnosed ADHD, it was suboptimal. After white-knuckling my way through law school, I sat down at my desk on my first day of my first professional job and remembered, I hate working at desks. I also do not enjoy reading long, dense nonfiction. I don't like working alone. And I really don't like fighting with other people, which, if you're a federal appellate litigator, is the job. So I did the only sensible thing and forced myself to be an attorney for 20 more years, almost. And I noticed during that time that my self-esteem started to erode. I lost my professional confidence. And yes, it was depressing. And I mean literally depressing. A 2017 study showed that people who feel trapped in either an occupation or a workplace that doesn't suit them have an 11.4 to 14.2% higher incidence of mental illness. That's significant. That's also not surprising as someone who has lived through this. And it's not surprising as someone who owns a coaching firm and works with clients on this issue every day. That's right. I, after much retraining and tons of hard work, managed to exit stage right. And now, as my profession, I help other people exit stage right. And yet, even when I tell them my story, most people have zero faith that they can make this kind of pivot themselves. They feel hopeless. They can't be creative and think of what else they could do. And they feel scared. And before I go on, I just want to check my privilege. As you may have picked up, I am a reasonably well-educated white woman with no apparent disability. See previous ADHD disclosure. And I understand that the opportunities available to me are different than other people. I also understand that this fear and hopelessness, these are real feelings, and we really need to pay attention to them. Further, I know that many people's families have delivered the prestige pressure, which is what I call it, when we get the message, either subtly or not so subtly, that that thing you really want to do when you grow up is not something we do in this family. We're doctors. And this is where I pause and say hello to all of my under-respected, but hopefully that's changing, tradespeople who are making bank and never have to take an Excel training course unless they want to. Hello out there. So I'm hoping that by understanding what's possible, this will light a fire in your belly to make a change, especially if it's impacting your self-esteem or your mental health. Let me show you this chart. What this chart represents is the impact of a misalignment in working and an individual, and the impact that has on mental health. Now, this darker bar near the middle is the physical impact of secondhand smoke, which we all know isn't good for us. But you'll notice it's not at the top. The very top bar, for instance, is a misalignment of work and family and having conflict in that space. And as you can see, the negative mental health impact of that conflict is nearly twice as large as the physical impact of secondhand smoke. This is not a small issue. This is a mental health crisis, and we need to address it as one. Now, I know some of you are thinking about income and maybe even picturing those shiny, shiny golden handcuffs. And I understand, and that's normal. So let's take a look at this chart. It's showing us the impact on income for people who either make an interstate move for a new job or who pivot to a new industry. And as you can see, over the last 20 years, each of these changes has been associated with an increase in income on average. Except during the Great Recession, which was called the Great Recession, so you can't hold that one against me. But you can see that these kinds of changes can actually have fiscal benefits. And let's drill down even a little deeper. This chart is showing you the impact on hospitality and food service workers when they pivoted to either a new area of the industry or a new industry altogether. As you can see, on average, those pivots increased salary every time. And in fact, there's one on this list that increased salary by 153%. That's pretty good. Of course, things might vary in your industry. And these charts are available for most professions. So I encourage you to look at them, to see what the actual impacts are and to see how other people made these pivots and where they landed. So now what? Now that I have you convinced that if you're really unhappy in your job, you need to make a change, I would like you to sit down and list your values, your strengths, and your skills. And now I'm going to say what I wish every guidance counselor in every high school said. Just because you're highly skilled at something, like being an attorney, doesn't mean you enjoy it or that you have to do it. So take that into account too. And ask people around you what they see as your strengths and skills. Sometimes other people can see things in ourselves that we have difficulty seeing in us. Now, once you have that list and you have some idea, I want you to do a fun exercise. Let's pretend that every profession is equal, equally respected, equal pay. Let's pretend that you have every skill and ability, so you can do any profession. Now I'd like you to write down what you would do if there were no limitations on you. When I first did this, the absolute top of my list was stand-up comedian. I still desperately want to be a stand-up comedian. But I get homesick after about 2 days of travel. So being a stand-up comedian who tours comedy clubs across the country is not in the cards for me. However, when I took a look at my list, I noticed that almost all the things involved presenting, teaching, and helping people, which helped me take the first step towards becoming a coach and professional speaker, like I'm doing right now. So this kind of exploration, you're going to need to approach with an open mind. I encourage you to not let your assumed doubts come into this, especially in the beginning. I also encourage you to explore untraditional career paths and entrepreneurship. Let yourself be free while you're exploring. And yes, there will be some obstacles that come up. Yes, there will be fear and doubt who may have parked themselves on your couch. And we need to face those head on. They're real. So how do we do that? If you have an option, you want to be a kayak tour operator, and you have not let yourself immediately shoot it down, now it's time to make a plan. Plan how you can realistically get there, what you'll need to do, how the finances will work out, and probably a pro-con list. Once you've crunched those pro-cons and you have your plan and you've decided that this is probably a great idea, make the leap. or the hop. It's up to you. But don't let yourself spend years of your life doing something that actively makes you unhappy and is negatively impacting your mental health. The most important thing that I want all of you to do who find yourselves in this position is make the leap or the hop. It's up to you.